Again, welcome to week 4, our week 4 discussion. We're at the end of week 4. And so, so far we've covered emotions matter, the charter, the mood meter, and then this week, the meta moment. So we're going to spend a little bit of time looking back and just sort of wrapping up the mood meter, and then sort of shift our attention to talking about the meta moment. So I just want to say that that encourage you for these sessions. It's really an opportunity for you to ask your questions in real time, and for you to learn from your colleagues here participating with you. So there are a lot of discussion questions, activities on the training portal, and I really encourage you to take advantage of those. Sit with your team either virtually or in person, share messages, so that way when you come to this session, we can respond and really address some of the things that you're not quite clear on, or that need a little more background or a little more information about application. So I encourage you to do that so that you can take full advantage of this opportunity. So to start, I would like to take us very quickly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but to just sort of reflect back for a minute on the mood meter and everyday use. So you've all had an opportunity to learn sort of the ins and outs, the process, the mechanics of the mood meter. But I want to just emphasize that the mood meter is a great tool for developing all of the ruler skills. And the questions on this slide will tell you, if you answer those questions, it helps you with those 5 ruler skills. So where are you on the mood meter? That's really about recognizing that you use energy, pleasantness to figure out, oh, I'm feeling something. Start to think about it. The U is identified by using or asking the question, what's causing me to feel this way? The labeling is the question, once I plot myself, once I figured out why am I in that quadrant, you can ask yourself, what's the best word to describe this feeling? And then we move on to strategies. And the E is the question using the mood meter is, how comfortable am I in expressing this emotion? Am I expressing it in a way that is most helpful to me? And is how I'm expressing it appropriate and comfortable given the situation? And then finally moving to the last question, how do I want to feel? And what strategy can I use to shift? So if you say, well, I'm kind of in the red and this moment would really be most effectively managed if I'm in yellow. So I've decided I want to shift. What am I going to do to get myself there? Am I going to take a walk? Am I going to turn on some music and dance? Am I going to, what am I going to do to raise my energy, increase my pleasantness to get where I want to be? So when you think about using the mood meter, it's not, take it beyond the just checking in. Take it to these other questions so that you can really take advantage of the rich information that it can provide for you. So the next thing I'd like to, this is this is the director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. I call this the COVID mood meter. And my daughter spent a lot of time in the early months of COVID making masks. And we were all kind of isolated, and I just said, we have to make light of this in some way. So I made Mark this set of mood meter masks and sent them to him, and he kind of took it to the next level. And anyway, So I thought you might appreciate this. Oh, somebody's Chromebook just died. Well, I hope, Taylor, that you're able to get back with us. Let's see. What I'd like to do now is do a quick check-in on the mood meter. And unfortunately, this is not quite lined up here, but the mood meter is, there is a tool on the Ruler platform that you would be, that you will get access to when you sort of graduate from the training portal into the Ruler platform, which is what you'll use as you begin to take Ruler to your school and include the rest of your staff in the training process. I am going to stop sharing my screen for just a minute and share a different one. So, believe you are all, here we go. So this is a tool that you will, as I said, get to have access to once you move onto the platform. And this is kind of a real life, a live group check-in app. And what I'd like you to do is, if you're in a group, you can do it on your computer, or if you're alone, you can do it on your computer. You can also do it on your phone if you don't want to sort of mess with your computer, or if you're in a room with more than one person, and you need to access it this way. So the first, Nikki, I forgot to ask you to put that in the chat. Are you able to do that?
Yeah, I have this up. Yes, just give me one moment, please.
Sure. Or I could do it.
Just because, yeah, I can't copy and
Yep. Ah.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll put it in the chat so you can go directly to the link. Okay, so if you go to that link, you will be brought to this location on the Ruler platform. And if it's hard for me,
right, that doesn't work. And I tried to do it from my own computer and it's not working either with your code. So I don't know why.
Interesting. It says I still have an hour and 54 minutes remaining. So you did it with the 7WCM5R.
Mhm.
Nikki?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Let me try something else. I'll work on it if you want to just keep going.
Okay, sure. I'm going to switch back to just as to sort of show you what Nikki's working on, there will be a tool that you can use. Oh, somebody says they got on their cell phone. Caroline got on her cell phone. Anyone else getting on?
Okay, great. My computer's blocking me, but
okay, somebody else got on. So I'm going to go back to our plot. And so you can see that as people are logging in and plotting, I'm going to refresh. Oh, there they come. Their plots are populating this mood meter. And as they go in, we'll sort of give you a couple of minutes to sort of plot where you are, and then I'll explain a little bit more. So over here, I can see that 7 people have plotted. Now there are 8. And so I'll give a couple more minutes for people to troubleshoot or log in. Okay. If you haven't had a chance, if you haven't been able to get in, you can continue. Excuse me. But you can kind of see that there's a range of where people are plotting themselves. And up here on this 2, that, excuse me, 2 people have plotted themselves in the same, excuse me. So 2 people have plotted at the same coordinates and also chosen the same words. Again, over here in the red, 2 people have plotted the same place, but chosen 2 different words. So the other thing you'll notice is that the size of the circle changes as more people sort of choose that area. So when you have just 11 people, you can't see much variation, but when you do this with your staff, when you bring it back to your staff, you can really get a sort of very quick, take a quick temperature of where your group is. And then when you scroll down, this will give you more detailed information. So up here in the yellow, we have 2 people said they feel engaged, 2 people productive, 1 empowered, and 1 balanced. So that gives you a sense of kind of where people in that upper right-hand corner are feeling. Someone is content, that's great. And then there are a few people who are in the upper left who are feeling annoyed or worried or stressed. And I think the important thing to do there is, as always, use those emotions as information. So you can use those emotions to say, is this where I want to be? Is this where I need to be? And I, as a facilitator, can say, so there are 3 people who are in the red. 1 is annoyed, 1 is worried, and 1 is tense. Is there something I can do to better understand or to help them move to a place that in which they might be a little bit more able, not distracted? So I'm going to take just a minute to look at the chat here. So Nikki said in response to Andrew's comment, can we use this with students? And you can use this with anyone. In fact, people don't even need to be logged on. They don't need to have access to the full platform for you to be able to use this. So all of you, none of you has access right now, but I can still do this. So if you're doing a presentation, if you're doing a staff training, you can use this tool once you get access to the platform.
Can I clarify my question?
Sure, yeah.
The question is, if we have students that plot themselves in red.
Andrew, do you have a phone and a screen in the same room? You're kind of echoing. Let's see, Andrew, are you still here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're kind of echoing, but we can hear you.
Okay, my question is, if we have students who plot themselves in the red quadrant, can we figure out who they are so we can follow up with those students?
Nikki, you have used this tool in more settings than I have. Do you want to clarify that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me say a few things here. So this tool is built for just the purpose of anonymous plotting, and there are actually data privacy reasons where preventing us from identifying any individual adults or students. So we can't get that information using this tool. This is just really to get a sense of where people are in a meeting. You could use it in a staff meeting. You could absolutely use it in a classroom to see, oh, there are some students in the yellow, some students in the red, or just to kind of get a check-in. Now, if you want to identify where individual students are, there are a lot of ways to do it outside of this tool. You could certainly use this tool to get a sense. Some of the ways that I've seen classroom teachers do it is having students have something on their desk where the student can plot on their desk, just a mini mood meter, and they can move their plot around. They could submit something privately to the teacher in another platform to tell them where they are. A lot of teachers do mood meter journals with the students. And so you do a check-in, can even use a colored sticker to indicate where you are that day and to write about where you are. Obviously letting the students know that you're going to read their mood meter journals just to see where they are each day. So there are a lot of other ways where you can get that individual student data. This is really just to get kind of an aggregate sense of where people are, and it has to be anonymous. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask. Yeah.
And one other idea to share in a way that doesn't feel maybe as, doesn't sort of lead to as many vulnerable feelings among students as they might experience if you're going to read their journal, is to use it for like a math activity, a math lesson. So if you have a plot, or if you have, depending on how often you check in over the course of the day and what age students you have, you could have them plot over the course of the week if they're coming into your classroom just once. If you're a high school teacher, you could have them plot and then over time track where they're going. You could do bar graphs where students are sort of tracking or stacking their responses, so they can compare day to day, they compare hour to hour if you check multiple times, and for older students for longer periods of time. So before I move on from this, does anybody have any additional questions about this? Okay, so we're going to shift back. And this is the platform that that Nikki will be going through. And but before we sort of move on, I want to talk a little bit about the activity that you all did in on the training portal, and that is the Where Do I Live on the Mood Meter activity. And the value of doing that activity is not just that it helps you kind of reflect on where you live and become more aware. That's certainly an important part of it. But doing that activity and taking that activity back to the teachers in your school can also help people sort of think more consciously about how they're feeling. So one of the things that happens is that people sometimes are surprised by when they do the activity where they're estimating the percentage of the time that they feel in different quadrants over the course of or in their work and in their home life. One of the things that happens is people are sometimes surprised by what they discover when they look at those percentages. So some people who sort of in their mind, they have this idea, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed, I don't know how I'm going to do it. And then they go through this activity or this exercise and they kind of discover, oh, I spend more time feeling, joy over the course of my day. I spend more time feeling contented. And because the stress is sort of a bigger, bolder emotion, it can sometimes feel bigger than it is when you reflect. The opposite can also be true, that people, they sort of are stuck in this idea that I always need to be in the blue or in the yellow and the green. And so they report themselves or think about themselves generally in that way. But then when they start to sort of piece it apart and think about the course of their days and think about what happens, they say, oh, there are some times when I'm not like super happy or bubbling over. And the importance, both in terms of this training, but also when you take it back to your schools, is for people to understand that going through that activity, or even plotting yourselves like you did just a few minutes ago, it's information. If we think about it from the perspective of an emotion scientist, where we're asking, what's happening there? Why am I feeling this way? What about my situation? What's causing it? That can give you that. If you think about that as information, then you can act in ways that help you reach your goals. And sometimes there's this push to, as I said, to think that we should be in the yellow or green, and that's the best place, and we have to get ourselves there. And so I'll just share a little bit about this idea. I tend to live in the blue, and always have, probably always will. And a lot of, like, the first thought about that must be, oh, that's so depressing. Why would you want to stay there? Well, in a lot of what I do, it really helps me to be analytical. It helps me to think through things. It helps me to plan. And so those are the ways that it's beneficial. There's also this sort of downside to where I live. And that is that I sometimes have a hard time taking the step to actually move things into implementation, because I'm worried that maybe I forgot something, or hadn't thought of something, or I don't know something. And I have a colleague who lives in the yellow, and it's great for me to work with her because she has all these wonderful ideas and is excited and really wants to take things, get new information and run with it. And that can be really exciting. But it sometimes means that she doesn't think through all of the ramifications or all of the things that need to be in place. What is it really going to take to bring that idea to life? So that's an example of where thinking about not just going through the activity of where do I live on the mood meter, but also what information is that providing me? What will I do differently? How do I value that part of myself? Any questions about the mood meter before we kind of move on? Lingering questions? Okay, so I am going to pass this over to Nikki for a minute.
Great.
And Nikki's going to kind of take you through some of the platform and show you what's there, give you a taste of what's going to be available to you. I think at this point in the training, you kind of have all this information, and you really want to have a sense of how am I going to use this? How am I going to bring it to my school? And so Nikki's going to show you the platform that you will, quote unquote, graduate to once this training is over. So take it away, Nikki.
Great. And so first I'm going to show you, this is the training portal that you know and love. And you'll see that some of these are grayed out, and they'll be opening up over the next couple of weeks. In week 6, which is the last week of training, you have an implementation planning guide. So if you're wondering, where do I go from here after the training is over? This is a step-by-step guide. And so you can download this guide, and I'll just show you a couple of things here. It will tell you how you can access and provide access to your entire staff to this Ruler online platform that I'm about to show you. So the training portal was the thing that you're in now, where you get a combination of discussion boards and these Zoom links to Charlene's sessions, and you get to interact with people in your training. That's the training portal. You're going to move over to an implementation support platform, and you and all the adults in your school will have access to that for 2 years as part of your training package. After the 2 years, you'll have the option to subscribe annually. And so you'll get information on getting everybody into that platform. And then there's an activity schedule for getting your staff on board with Ruler and just getting them to know the concepts, the principles, the tools, the skills. And so there's this really detailed schedule here. It tells you about how much time everything should take, when it could happen alone or in a staff meeting, for instance. It points you to links on the platform. Once you have your login set up there, you'll be able to just click on these links and go straight to the learning module reference, the staff meeting activity guide reference, the tip sheet, etc. So you'll have a really detailed plan of how to bring Ruler to your staff here. There's a little bit in this guide also about how to bring Ruler to students. And I'm going to show you all of the resources that go along with bringing Ruler to students and to families in just a moment. But I want to remind everyone that the research shows that schools should spend 6 months to a full 2 years really getting all of the staff on board with all the Ruler principles, skills, and tools, so that they can be knowledgeable as they implement it within their classrooms, so they can be good role models for the students of using the Ruler skills, Ruler tools, etc. So I will show you all of these pieces in the other platform. So again, this is a guide you'll get access to in week 6. So moving on to the online platform. This is where Charlene took you today. So this is where you can set up that group plot that we mentioned, where you get the anonymous plots in a staff meeting, in a classroom, etc. But I'm going to back out here to just the homepage of the platform. So this is the dashboard. This is the first thing you would see. Your name would be here when you log in, and there are different announcements that we post pretty regularly. You'll see your staff charter if you have created your staff charter or once you've created it. And then there's a roadmap so that you can guide your staff along the way in terms of what they should be doing. So if you want them all to do a learning module, if you want them to watch this video on how the platform works, etc., you can assign it to your school staff through the platform, or you can just let them know in whatever internet or email system you have at your school and send them the links directly. So you could do it either way. So you'll see here these 4 tabs. This is how you can access everything here. So we'll start with the courses. These are learning modules for your whole staff to complete, and they focus on the same topics that you've seen in the training. So they're in the same sequence, the same topics. So emotions matter mindset. This is the emotions affect attention, memory, learning, decision-making, relationships, the Ruler skills, and then this is really how Ruler works. So you've gone through all of that. The other learning module is on the tools. So the same ones that you've already seen in the training. And I know we have these 2 are coming up. So they're about 30 minutes a piece. You can assign them to your staff, as I mentioned, through the roadmap, or you could just send them the links or let them know to just go into the platform once they have their account set up. And in the resource library, you'll see a combination of videos, guides. Here are guides for going through any piece of Ruler. If you, for instance, say, oh, I'm not really sure how to introduce my staff to the charter, it tells you step by step all of the pieces. And again, it has links to, for instance, a guide on how to facilitate the charter meeting. And you can play around with this. You can print them out, etc. It also in the resource library, we have our classroom content guides, book lists, and then some recommendations for Ruler during hybrid learning. You all probably have figured this out by now just from teaching in and out of the classroom and in and out of the school building. We have a bunch of families resources, presentations you can give to parents and caregivers, letters you can send home, videos you can show, videos you can watch, lots of ways to learn on how to engage and educate families. We have out of school time resources, some things on mindfulness. And then these are new additions to our platform. We have a bunch of videos and a guide on really helping students through heightened emotions, helping ourselves through heightened emotions, given all the trauma that already existed before the pandemic, and that's really been reinforced or worsened, expanded throughout the pandemic. You can access all of the curricular content here, and I'll just click on one. So there's a teaching guide for all the different sections. Core routines are things that you can do, just embed into whatever you're doing. For instance, the mood meter check-in that Charlene showed today, where you can go online and do that mood meter check-in through the digital platform, or you could do it, as I mentioned, in any number of ways without the online support and have students plot themselves. You can even just do it orally. But core routines are things like that, breathing breaks, charter check-in. So a word on our charter is safe. How safe are we all feeling? Has anyone witnessed anyone do anything to help someone else feel more safe? Those sort of things. And then there are individual units here, and we have Spanish translations of a lot of our content. We're working on Spanish translations of all of our content, so you'll see that option for much of our content. But basically, when you click on a lesson, you'll see standards and objectives that align with it, and then you'll see an outline and sometimes a script for going through the lesson, including book recommendations, and there are options on the book list, as I mentioned. So that's the early childhood one. And the one that's a little different is our high school curriculum. This is an interactive curriculum so that you can display it in front of students on a smart board or another screen. It's just loading here. It'll take a minute. And so basically you'd pop this up on the screen and have them go through each piece of the lesson. So a role play activity, for instance, or a conversation. And there are little tips throughout here that you could click on to guide the conversation or to check, how the students' responses in your classroom compare to our suggested responses. So that's that. And then finally, the mood meter tool that Charlene showed you. And we also have a charter tool where you can create charters in this online platform so that you can share them with your staff. You would just go here and you could create a charter. You could also upload one to share with your staff. So I'm going to keep this up and just check the chat and see if there are any questions, or feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions about the implementation planning guide, about the online platform, or anything that I covered.
Hi. Is there like a pacing? Because I know you say 6 months to 2 years. Is there like a pacing calendar of like where you should be and when, or is that up to you?
It's really, so there's a sequence. So there's definitely a suggested way to go through everything. And really it's up to you. It just varies so much from school to school. So if you look at in that planning guide, it says this exercise takes 30 minutes. This one takes an hour. This one takes, so really just looking through those and thinking about where this will fit into your staff meetings, your beginning of the year, if you have any PD, if you have PD throughout your year. I would say that just in terms of a recommendation, you want people, you don't want to lose momentum. So I would say, at least once a month, do something related to Ruler in a staff meeting or in a PD opportunity. And I would say on average, schools fit in the staff development piece in 1 year. So I said 6 months to 2 years. Some schools do it really quickly because they're super focused on this and they have lots of room to squeeze it in. And those are schools that have more flexibility with their calendaring and even their requirements, maybe a private school, for instance, that has a little more flexibility worked in. And then some schools take up to 2 years, especially schools that are taking on other new initiatives and are trying to combine this with other things that are competing for their time. 1 year is what schools typically take for the staff development phase. So basically you can look at that, you'll get an idea of how long everything will take, and then think about where you can fit it in based on your school's calendar.
And Nikki, there is a question in the chat about, since since they will have, that it's hard, this is a lot of information to take in. And we know that this is sort of just a snapshot. And so you will get these access to these resources before the end of the training. And you will have time to get your hands in and sort of move around, explore. So during the, after you get access to this, the live session on the last week is, we'll hear from Dr. Brackett again, but I really encourage you to, if you have questions as you go through these tools and courses and resources, to reach out to me directly or in the discussion areas of the training portal. And we'll do, we'll try to clarify and make sure that if you have questions, when you have questions, we're available to you to answer them.
Absolutely. So you can reach Charlene through the Message Center. I don't know if Charlene has provided her email yet, but you can also reach any of us through email. And if you have technology questions, if for some reason something's not working, you can always reach out. This is going to be in all of your materials, but I'll put it in the chat too. You can reach out to ruler.online@yale.edu and you'll get right in touch with our tech team. Every once in a while there's a technical reason at the school that blocks some of this. It's very, very rare. But if for some reason something isn't working for you, we're happy to help there. So we are available to you to answer all of your questions once you have access to all of this.
Well, all of your questions about Ruler, we'll
Yeah,
put a limit
right.
on all the ones that are not about Ruler.
I have another question, Nikki, really quick.
Sure.
So basically, all the information, once it's rolled out, is only for staff. So should you be introducing things like the mood meter or the charter to students before the staff is like totally developed, or should you keep that to yourself?
So you make it sound like so secretive. So I guess what the research shows is that the staff should be up to speed on any concept before they're teaching it to the students. And there's a good body of research that shows that pretty much for anything that we're teaching. And it makes sense, we should be knowledgeable before we're teaching anything. So just to answer your question a little more head on, some schools and most of our research shows that it's best to get the staff through all of the content before doing it with the students. So really getting them familiar with the skills and the tools and practicing, my best self as a parent and, using it in their lives in school and out of school. So that's the way most schools do it based on the research and because they feel like it makes the most sense. Some schools, however, feel like there's urgency around getting it to the students. And so you could do pieces of Ruler. So for instance, teaching your staff the mood meter, how it works, showing them how the tool works, and then they implement the mood meter with the students in their classrooms. One thing that I'll say, whenever a school communicates this sort of urgency, like the students need this now, this is why we adopted Ruler, we want to get this to them as soon as possible. I'll just say that research also shows that when only the adults are using it and they're not teaching anything to students, the students are still benefiting because of that new awareness in the adults of the impact of emotions. They're teaching a little bit differently because they're integrating like how they're feeling and how they think the students might be feeling into what they're doing. So there actually is a positive impact on the students, even when the students aren't getting direct instruction on Ruler. So, but anyway, those are the two ways you can do it.
Other questions?
Anything else?
Okay, we will move back to, I'm going to share my screen again and we'll, why is it not sharing? There we go. Oh, that was. So I want to sort of introduce the mood meter to you. Many of you have had a chance to make it through some of this week. Some of you have not had a chance yet to go through the course on the training platform. But this is the tool that we call the mood or the meta moment. And the meta moment, it's really the purpose is about helping you act in ways that you'll feel good about, ways that you will feel like I'm really pleased with the way I handled that situation, or this is consistent. You those of you who have done some of the work, I've read your comments about your best self and what adjectives you would use to describe yourself. And the meta moment takes those adjectives and it puts them into practice in moments when you're managing challenging situations, when you're experiencing intense emotions. This is the tool that will help you manage that situation. So the first step, there are 4 steps in the meta moment. The first is sense, and that's when you kind of notice changes in your body, changes in your mind, things you're thinking about. The second step is to pause. And this is where you just sort of, before you say anything, before you do anything, you just break you take a break between sensing and acting. And if you have read or been through the lesson on Ruler Online, there's a Viktor Frankl quote that talks about this pause that we can take, that we have a choice in how we respond. And this is that pause. The meta moment puts that pause into practice. So after you pause, the next step is to see your best self. And your best self is based on 3 factors that all sort of combine to form the image of who you want to be in different settings and different relationships. And then the fourth part of it is to strategize. And this is about how you're going to respond in a way that is consistent, that aligns with this best self that you have considered and thought through. So if we move back to the sense, we'll get into more detail next week as well. But if we move back to this sort of noticing, it's as you develop the ruler skills, it will become easier and easier for you to tune in to what's happening. You'll feel it in your body. You'll notice your thoughts changing. So that one, the ruler skills support that. The next step is to pause. And a good place to start is with a deep breath. So, taking a deep breath in, holding it, letting it out. And you don't have to close your eyes and, do what I just did. But it's really about taking a breath that helps to calm your body. It helps to sort of get oxygen flowing. It really makes it possible to take that quick break. A lot of times taking that breath is where you can start, but you might need a little bit more. And some people like to count backwards, from 100 by 7s, or some people, I heard an example that somebody, when they need to calm down, will count their teeth with their tongue. I don't know if I would remember to do that, but that was one strategy. Another strategy that is called sort of emotional distancing is to imagine that you are watching the scene. So take yourself out of the immediate experience, pretend you're watching this scene on television, in a movie, and you're watching it unfold. You're sort of looking at the situation from a little bit of distance so that you can kind of see, not be so deep in the emotion that it's hard to strategize. So given the time, I want to stop there. We'll get into the next steps, or 3 and 4 next week, but I'd like, if you could, to share in the chat some of the strategies that you might use in the moment. These are things you can use while you're experiencing those intense emotions and preparing to take a meta moment. what strategies might you use? If you could share them so that those of us in the room here can get other ideas. Something that you can share might be just the perfect thing for somebody else in the room. So if you could add them to the chat, other strategies that you use, that you'd like to use, that come to mind. Okay, so there's a comment. I'm trying to, I don't know, K Vidafar, what your first name is, so I apologize for that. But you say that you like the emotional distancing, that was interesting. Do you have something more you'd like to say about that? You could just unmute yourself.
I just never heard of that strategy before, and I just thought that that was a very interesting one to like kind of remove yourself from the situation and see it from like an outsider's view. So I like that one.
Great, thank you. Let's see, so Tamika and Taylor and Kalia all say deep breathing. Any one of you want to say more about how you get yourself to that point where you remember to take that deep breath?
Hi, how are you? I've used something it's more of like an energy ball. So it aligns directly with deep breathing. So when you're counting and you're breathing, you're holding like an invisible energy ball in your stomach. And when you're feeling it, you're opening up and back and forth, and you're essentially feeling the energy that you have in your body. And you're going through a guided meditation at that time when you're counting to 5, letting it out, moving the energy ball up and down through your body. And then once you're able to release that and the energy ball dissipates, then you're in a calm space. So it kind of is coupled with your deep breathing, moving around an invisible energy ball, and then through a guided meditation, you find yourself at a more serene area where you can engage and have conversations about what you just experienced.
I love that. I love the idea of of making it concrete by putting something in your hands and really grounding the breath into something that you experience in your hands instead of just in your mind. So Daniela, you've said that when you're upset, that you remind yourself of the challenges that the person is facing and remind yourself to be empathic or empathetic and patient. Do you want to say more about that? Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I just kind of take a pause, like this is more something that I would do like with people I know well, such as my students, family, or friends. And if I'm starting to get upset with them, it's like the other day, I reminded myself, this student is autistic, this student's parents are getting a divorce. Like, yeah, he might be causing me to feel a little upset right now, but this is going to be temporary. And in the scope of what's going on right now, like I need to react in a better way to be more supportive of him.
Yeah, so it sounds like that sort of reframing and you've kind of combined things that will come, reframing things as a strategy, but also keeping in mind this best self, an element of your best self that you want to remind yourself to be empathic. Catherine has added to the chat that sort of imagine yourself with this idea of emotional distancing is to imagine yourself standing on a balcony and looking down at the scene and seeing, how it's evolving. So we have 3 minutes before we wrap up. Does anybody have any sort of outstanding thoughts, questions that they can share in a couple of minutes? And we'll make sure to address those or discuss them in next week's live session. You can add it to the chat or just take your mic off and or put your, take your mute off, unmute. Okay, well, if you have things that come to mind, please reach out to me, message me. You have my email. We want to make sure that these sessions really address your questions, the things you've been talking about in your groups, to really make sure that we can make the training experience what you need it to be to feel prepared to move back, to take it back into your school. So thank you all for being here. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.